Folks, don't you worry your pretty little heads. The full card breakdown for this pay-per-view is still coming up, but we have a very compelling main event, a very interesting matchup, in fact, a very competitive matchup in a rematch between Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev. And I thought we needed to shine a little bit of light on this matchup, make sure this fight gets the deserved amount of attention and gets the full breakdown that it actually does deserve, because what's going to happen is if I just throw this at the end of the full card breakdown, you guys are going to say, geez, why was there like a 20-minute breakdown in there? Maybe this one won't be 20 minutes. Either way, this one gets its own video. So we're going to do that. The full card breakdown will be out soon. Check for it. It's going to be in a playlist, UFC 294. You got it. Now, this matchup here is the rematch. Now, if in case you just became a fan of the UFC or you just now started to really pay attention, these guys fought not that long ago, about a year ago, right? And Islam Makhachev got the win, 3-2 on the judges' scorecards. But that is not the full story, right? Because this matchup was a very close matchup. Both guys at the end of the fight realistically had a good claim to say, hey, I won that fight, because both guys had done quite a bit of damage to the other. One might even say that more damage was apparent on the face of Islam Makhachev because of the fifth round in particular, from Alexander Volkanovski being on top and just landing shots and doing a lot of damage in that fifth round. And I would tend to agree that fifth round, Volkanovski definitely got the fifth round. And a lot of people thought, well, if damage is number one scoring criteria, didn't he win the fight? Well, it's still scored round by round. Makhachev got 3 of them, but it was contentious, okay? A lot of people thought that Volkanovski won, and rightfully so. It was a darn close fight. But here we are, the rematch, on short notice, because Charles Oliveira was originally scheduled to fight Islam Makhachev at this event. Charles Oliveira had to pull out, injury. You guys know how that works out. So in steps Alexander Volkanovski, being the ultimate alpha Chad that he is, steps into the fight on, 11 days notice, just ready to go, headed to Abu Dhabi, ready to fight up a weight class to try to beat the guy who beat him about a year ago in a very close matchup. And now he's going to do it on short notice, because why wouldn't you, right? So Alexander Volkanovski, as if he just doesn't have a care in the world, most confident guy on the planet, is going to step in on short notice and take this fight. Now, he's 4-1 in the last 5. You're thinking, okay, well, who did he lose to? Well, duh, he lost to Islam Makhachev. So the only loss in the last 5, in fact, his only loss in the UFC and his only loss in anybody's memory, realistically, because most people don't remember what was a welterweight fight that he lost forever ago. Volkanovski's only loss was to Makhachev in a very razor-thin fight. On the other hand, Islam Makhachev, 5-0 in the last 5. He has one loss very early in his UFC career where he was caught. It was a bit of an early stoppage, if you do ask me. But either way, he was caught. He got knocked out. Anyway, so there's that. This is a very, very entertaining matchup. And in fact, I'm more excited for this one than I was the original fight with Makhachev and Charles Oliveira, because I think this is more competitive. Now, I know that's, for another video, but here we are. Let's break it down. 155 pounds for the title, lightweight championship of the world, and reasonably probably the pound-for-pound number 1 fighter on the planet. But, somebody else can argue with John Jones. I don't know. Let's break down this fight. Now, let's start with the Alexander Volkanovski side, because he's an excellent striker, right? Alexander Volkanovski, what he does, he strikes extremely fast. He has quick hands, quick feet. But what he does best is his control over the range, because he's able to stay out of range, dart in, land his shots, and get out. How is he able to do that so well? Well, a couple of things. First off, he has a deceptively long wingspan for a guy that's 5'6", right? He's 5'6" and has like a 6-foot wingspan. I'm not exaggerating. It's like 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, something like that. It's like right around there. So for a guy with such a long wingspan, when you and being so short, you don't expect him to be able to land when he can land. You're like, oh man, okay, this guy just hit me, and I thought I had an extra couple of inches of give there, but it didn't. It seems subtle, and it is, but it checks out. What else he does? Well, he feints a lot. And the reason that this is important is because he gets his opponents just constantly biting on fakes. He's always feinting something or throwing a strike. And what that does is it kind of just overloads the senses of his opponents, whether it be the leg kicks, whether that be the shots up top, whether, even faking a takedown, whatever he's got to do. He's feinting or he's striking. And he's darting in, feinting, striking, darting out. Using combinations, cutting off the cage, and just leg kicking the heck out of people the whole time doing it. Now, he's using his leg kicks for a couple of things. One, he wants to accumulate damage there, right? Because it slows down your opponent, slows down their movement, makes it easier to cut off the cage. But also, he's scoring. He's scoring, right? He's not just landing leg kicks to knock people out like a Jonathan Martinez, for example, who just did that recently. No, he's landing these leg kicks to slow the opponent down so he can land with the hands, slow the opponent down so he can cut off the cage better, and also to make it so when he feints that leg kick, you react to it and he comes over the top and hits you with the shots up top, or goes for the takedown of his own. Now, he puts these combinations together where he mixes in kicks and punches, and not just in the way that you think of when you're looking at, okay, like he puts together like a 4-punch combo and then ends with a kick. Not what I'm talking about. Or not just like, oh yeah, he starts with a kick and then he comes forward with his combination, right? No. Those are great combinations. This is a solid way to go. Volkanovski's able to put his punches, his kicks, his punches, and his kicks together in combination where it doesn't have to just be like a kick then punches or punches then kick. You can put it all together in a seamless combination where you can go like 1-2, leg kick, 3-2, another leg kick off the other leg. Like he can put all this stuff together, and that's incredibly difficult to do in a fight with another human being. Now, it's one thing to do it on a heavy bag. Volkanovski does this in fights, and it looks incredible. And that was actually one of the things that I think made him look so levels above Max Holloway in their third fight, right? He was able to put those combinations together with kicks and punches and just land a ridiculous amount of volume, but also a ridiculous amount of levels when he's striking. So excellent striking, and he has the cardio to go along with it. He's incredibly durable and incredibly strong. He has all of these things to go together with the striking, and that's where he's going to try to most likely keep this fight. However, he has some solid grappling to go along with it, right? He mixes his takedowns in very well with his strikes. He can come in with the strikes up top and then drop levels, get the takedown. In fact, we've seen him mixing takedowns against his opponents quite a bit, especially in recent memory. The Yair Rodriguez one was a great example of how he can mix in his wrestling, get the takedowns, and just have his relentless ground and pound offense to get a guy out of there, because he does have relentless ground and pound. He's one of the better ground and pound artists in the UFC. He is easily the best one at 145 pounds. This matchup being at 155, it's a little different, but at 145 pounds, nobody can ground and pound like Alex Volkanovski can. So anyway, he's a good scrambler as well. So in these scrambles, whether he's the one that's started the takedown initiation, or if he's the one that someone is attempting to take him down, if somehow they end up in a scramble, Volkanovski's very good at getting to the top position, getting to where he needs to get to. And his takedown defense in general is actually pretty good. The one area that I think he really does have the chance of getting taken down more often from is his leg kicks. Why do I mention that? Well, his leg kicks, when he throws the leg kick over and over again, eventually somebody can get his timing. Now, sure, they're going to eat a lot of kicks to the leg in the process, but eventually they catch the timing, and he gets his leg caught, and they come over the top and get the takedown, whether it be off of a punch or just a hand to the chest. Now, if you remember, if you've been following me for a while on Twitter, it was called Twitter back then, I promise you, before the original matchup, I put a picture up of Volkanovski throwing a leg kick and it getting caught by someone. Maybe it was Ortega. I can't remember. Anyway, caught the kick, got the takedown like this. And I said that's probably why Makhachev is going to win the first fight, because I think he's going to be able to catch the leg kicks of Volkanovski enough times to win enough rounds to win the fight. Well, I wasn't entirely wrong. He was able to get the takedowns. He was able to do what he needed to do there. Maybe it wasn't exactly the way I thought it was going to go, but we ended up on the right side. So, hey, there we go. I'm writing history the way I want it to be. Now, like I said, those leg kicks, if he can get those caught, yes, he can be taken down. But otherwise, he's got good takedown defense. He also gets up when he's taken down. How does he do it? Well, he scoots to the cage, right? Gets up against the cage, works his feet up to him, and then explodes up with every bit of power he has in his legs. I wish I could give you a better example, but I'm not going to undo the camera and all that stuff and put it down on the ground. But what he'll do is he'll get those legs going, scoot himself back, just using his hands and feet, just butt scoot his way to the cage. And then all he has to do from there is get his feet underneath his butt, basically, and explode up. Now, he can do that well because he's got shorter legs, so they're harder to wrap up. Because those longer legs that a lot of guys have, because 155 pounds, Volkanovski is going to be shorter than most of them. The longer legs are easier to wrap up from the opponent, right? The person on top can wrap up a longer leg because it's just more leg, right? Volkanovski gets those legs in tight, uses that to get up under his butt and shoot and just push. And that's how he gets back to his feet up against the cage. He also has the ability to sweep from the bottom, and I do believe at least at one point in the matchup, if I remember correctly, he was able to sweep Makhachev in their first fight. Now, when he gets on top of someone, there's where that ground and pound comes in. He just keeps landing shots. And not only that, but guys try to submit him. You saw Ortega try to do it. You can't submit this dude. He's unsubmittable from what I can understand. He also, when he gets up to the cage like this, he's good at reversing position. When he gets you up against the cage, he's just teeing off on people, and then he'll come in tight and hold him here, and then he'll come back out and tee off on people. He's exceptionally good at holding people against the cage and working his shots, and then mixing in the cage push to the strikes. And he does that just better than just about anybody, right? So for Volkanovski, like I said, he's got all the skills. He's physically strong. He's one of the stronger people pound for pound, I would have to say, just because the amount of strength that this guy can muster from his small 5'6" frame is incredible. And I think a lot of that comes from his days at rugby, right? Big 200 and some odd pound guy. Now he's down at 145 pounds, 155 for this one. Makes it, he still has a lot of that tendon strength and that the muscles there, but he just shrunk them down a little bit. But like I said, incredibly hard to finish, top tier cardio. Volkanovski's a complete fighter. Okay, with all that said, you're like, man, Volkanovski's gonna win this, right? Because all this. But he's going up against Islam Makhachev. Now, Islam Makhachev is one of the most perfect fighters on the planet, very much like Alex Volkanovski. So what do we see here? So for Islam Makhachev, his striking. Yeah, he's more of a grappler than a striker, just like, in Volkanovski's case, he probably wants to be more of a striker than a grappler in this one. Makhachev wants to be more of a grappler, but we're going to cover the striking first. So with his striking, he establishes his threat to multiple levels. Now, what I mean by that, it's, the kicks, the punches, the takedowns. He establishes that threat early to multiple different levels, similar to how Volkanovski uses his feints. Makhachev uses that threat of the takedown, that threat of the high kick, which he throws a gosh darn fast high kick, and we'll cover that in a second. The threat of the high kick, his accurate combinations with the hands. He establishes this threat early on in a matchup, and that is what's going to get his opponents a lot of times to be hesitant to come in on him and be hesitant to engage with this in the striking with a guy like Makhachev, and that opens up his counter striking. Now, his counter striking is actually one of the things that makes his striking so dangerous. And he did it against Charles Oliveira in their first matchup, the one that he claimed the title from. His counter striking is very good because as he gets people kind of hesitant to come in, they're like, okay, well, I just have to come in, and there's just a little bit of hesitancy. And then when they do finally come in, he's got that counter ready because he already saw that hesitancy in their approach and is able to land his shots and get guys hurt and put them down. He's also got exceptional kicks at range. So even before they're coming in, they have to keep thinking about that big southpaw head kick that he has or southpaw body kick that he has. He stands a lot of times in that southpaw stance typically, and he's just landing those kicks so fast. He can throw it down the middle with a front kick. He can also throw it up to the head with a roundhouse kick. He can also, snap it to the body with the roundhouse kick, whatever he's got to do. He doesn't throw a ton of leg kicks, but, has the ability to do so. But he throws a lot of high kicks, and they're fast. They're quick. And against a guy like Volkanovski, who's 5'6", he doesn't have to get that leg as high. So naturally, it's going to get there quicker, right? If you have to kick, 5'10" or 5'6", kicking to the 5'6" height is going to be a lot quicker. That's just how it works. So that head kick that's already quick is even quicker now. Anyway, his striking defense. Well, this is another thing that's really, really impressive for Makhachev. He just doesn't get hit. He doesn't get hit hardly at all. In fact, Volkanovski probably landed on him more than just about anybody, but in their first matchup, that is. But he doesn't get hit very often, right? He controls the range and establishes the threat of the takedown to make people inactive, like I mentioned up here, right? But also, what he does is he's good at moving outside of range, moving back into range, and landing his shots at his range, either all the way out or all the way in. I didn't write it up here, but he has a deceptive clinch game as well. You don't think about, the clinch with Islam. He's got that clinch where when he's all the way in, he's ripping uppercuts to you, right? He's slamming the knees to you. He can then use that to get you up against the cage, start working the takedowns, but that's grappling. We'll cover that in a minute. But that clinch is kind of the in-between. And I think he's got one of the better and more underrated clinches, especially at 155 pounds. I would say probably one of the more underrated clinches in the entire UFC. But he's able to do that by controlling the range, by either being all the way out or all the way in. Now, another thing. His combinations, exceptionally accurate. He doesn't waste punches by throwing these big, set up 1, 2, 3s and then finally landing. He looks for his shots, picks his opportunities, and he lands. He'll land 3 of the 3 punch combo, 4 of a 4-punch combo. And I don't know if you guys know this, but that's incredibly hard to do. It's not usually the first strike that lands unless you're, a single shot like Sniper. It's if you're throwing a combination of like 4 punches, you don't normally land all 4 of those punches. That's what I'm trying to say. He does a darn good job of it. He's also got the feints very well. So like Volkanovski does, where he's feinting and overloading his opponent. Makhachev's feinting as well, but it's different because what he's doing, he's feinting a lot of takedowns, right? He's feinting a ton of takedowns. The reason he does that is because that's his strongest weapon is his takedown, right? But he also mixes in the striking feints, right? And he gets guys thinking about that. And then when you don't know what's coming, that's when you're easiest to hit. Do you defend the takedown? Do you defend the strikes? He does a good job of that. So his striking is actually solid. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Volkanovski is probably the cleaner, probably the better striker. I don't know about cleaner. If you put them both in a heavy bag, it's going to look great. They're both exceptionally clean strikers. I think Volkanovski's probably got the advantage in the striking, and I don't think that's crazy to say. But Makhachev isn't lost in the striking. In fact, he has a few natural advantages, one being the height. That's going to make him a little bit harder for Volkanovski to hit because all of his punches going up for the head are going to be punching upwards, right? Even if that reach advantage, is about the same. Even if the reach is the same, he's punching up, whereas Makhachev is punching straight. So for Volkanovski punching up, wear out your shoulders, fatigue them. You have to go up. If you're holding your hand up, if you walk to a wall, you'll hit the wall farther away than you will. Closer than you will if you're holding it straight out, right? Makes sense. So Makhachev being the taller fighter of the two, the range does help him out a bit. So anyway, there's that natural advantage we got. Now let's cover his grappling because this is the best part of his game, right? So when you're looking at Islam Makhachev, the guy has nearly perfect takedown entries. And what do I say? What do I mean by nearly perfect? They don't get much better than his takedown entries. He times them expertly. He uses his range, his distance, his control to get those takedowns set up just right to time them and the entry comes right under his opponent's strikes or at the end of one of his strikes. You're not going to find a better takedown entry in the UFC than Islam Makhachev. Most likely. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. If you can, drop them in the comments. Let me know because those are gosh darn near perfect. Now, when he gets on top, excellent top control. Now, I do remember in the first fight, I do believe Volkanovski was able to sweep him at one point, but that's a rarity. Now, Makhachev is typically going to be very difficult to sweep. He's going to be on top. He's going to land his shots. He's going to be very safe. He's going to keep his ground and pound to a safe ground and pound. Little shots like that, just little hammers, working the elbow in there. He's not just posturing up and throwing these crazy bombs like Volkanovski does. So sure, the damage is less when he's landing them, but he's much safer on top because of it. So it's a trade-off. It's a give and take, right? He does a good job with that. He's going to feint the sub to advance the position. Now, that's something that's interesting. He'll go for an arm maybe, and then all of a sudden when you go to, defend your arm because he's doing whatever, then he uses that to move to the next position, advance, whether it's from half guard to side control to full mount, whatever it is, takes the back. He's feinting these submission attempts to make it so he can move into a better position. Like I said, he does stay safe on top, and a lot of that is because he doesn't allow a ton of space. So what does that mean? Well, space is opportunity for you or your opponent. Now, it just depends on who is looking for the space at the moment to whose opportunity it is. But if you give your opponent space, that's opportunity for them to get up, create a scramble, attack a submission hold, whatever. But if you're on top, you also need space to attack your opponents. Well, he's not giving them a ton of space. He's keeping his chest down, putting that pressure on the opponents, and just doing what he needs to do. And then instead of posturing up to land big shots, he's just slowly creeping his way through until you give him, say an arm triangle, give an arm bar, which he will roll for an arm bar, and he does darn good with it. He's got quite a few finishes by arm bar. Or he'll take your back, go for the rear naked choke, things like that. Dude does really well about just staying safe on top and moving his way into position better without having to really create space to land big shots and get you to turn over or whatever. So good on him for that. Now, also, takedown defense. You're not really taking down Islam Makhachev very easy. You guys have got phenomenal takedown defense. How many of Arman Sarukian's takedowns did he stuff? Like all of them? Or not all of them. I think actually Sarukian got him down once. But either way, Sarukian's got darn good takedowns. Makhachev stuffed most of those, right? Other examples, Moises, I think, got him down once. No, maybe not. I can't remember. Either way, he hasn't been taken down a lot. Either way, he's got great takedown defense. He's got great scrambles as well. So what happens is when he creates space from the bottom, which he's very active off of his back, he's able to create space, get on top, and then use that to then start working his game. His top game is better than his bottom game, but when he is on bottom, he's very active, works that, get the scrambles going, yada, yada. Now, another thing that I wanted to say before we make our final pick and prediction, it's the submission arsenal of Islam Makhachev that people kind of overlook, right? They think of him as this control, decisionator fighter, but he's got a lot of submissions, right? And he gets a lot of submissions by looking for the arm triangle, looking for the arm bar, looking for the rear naked choke, things like that. He's very good about finding the finish in his matchups. In fact, he finished Charles Oliveira to win the title, right? Finished, most guys on the way up, Dan Hooker, Bobby Green, all these guys that are darn good fighters, right? And he finished these guys by getting submissions on them. So for Islam Makhachev, he does have very good topside grappling, but people forget that the submission arsenal of Makhachev is just as deadly as the ground and pound, and that's something that, for whatever reason, gets lost, right? They compare him to Khabib, where, yeah, Khabib had submissions, but a lot of that was just because he bludgeoned people until they gave him a submission. Because that dude was a mauler on the ground, whereas Makhachev is more calculated on the ground, looks for his shots, slowly moves into pace or into position, and then takes the submission, okay? So it's a different style, but he gets compared to Khabib a lot, so there you are. Dude's also got great cardio. Both of these guys have fantastic cardio. Now, I understand in the 5th round, Makhachev was looking a little tired in their last fight. Well, that's because he was getting beat up really bad. So we have that to go off of. But all in all, my voice is starting to run out here. I haven't had a drink in a while. I've been talking a lot. So let's get to this final pick, shall we? All this has been said to say that I think Islam Makhachev is still getting the win. And I won't be surprised if Volkanovski pulls it off. But if gun to my head, if I have to pick, you have to make a pick. I would definitely take Makhachev just for the fact that I think that he's going to stay safer in more moments, going to win more minutes, and I think he's going to be able to get on top and use that to control more portions of the fight and win a decision. I do think it's going to decision, and I do think Makhachev's getting the decision. You're not going to finish a guy like Volkanovski, and Makhachev is gosh darn crafty, and that's what I think happens. So for me, the pick is Islam Makhachev. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. I won't blame you at all for picking Volkanovski. In fact, this is a fight that I recommend just kicking back, kick your feet up on the coffee table, crack open a nice cold root beer, and just sit back and enjoy, because we don't get fights like this very often where it's the two best fighters on the planet, and I do stand by saying that. These are the two best fighters on the planet that are still doing it currently, and I'm going to take Makhachev in this one, but I'm just going to watch it as a fan. I'm not going to bet on this fight. I might bet the over, but I'm just watching this as a fan. Let me know what you think. Like the video on your way out. I appreciate you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for that full card breakdown coming right your way.